The mystery surrounding the death of Twisha Sharma, a young woman in her 30s found dead in her mother in law's home, has only deepened. This after the CBI, which has now taken over the probe, basically put in the public domain its FIR. And the timeline that the FIR recreates not just brings us up to speed with some shocking details, shocking new details, but it also gives you a glimpse into the last 39 minutes of Twisha Sharma's life. Why am I being so precise? Well, because the CBI FIR, based on talking to both the families, tells us, and this is if, of course, Samarth Singh and Giribala Singh can be taken at face value, and of course, the investigation may reveal that this timeline is not accurate. But it is now confirmed by Twisha's father as well that at about 9:41 p.m. on the day that Twisha died, she spoke to her father, and then the phone got abruptly disconnected. And the parents of Twisha have testified that they could hear her husband Samarth yelling in the background. After that, the parents kept trying to call her, could not get through. Samarth Singh claims to the CBI or to the investigators that Twisha took her own life at 10:20. That's a version that Twisha's family entirely contests. They believe that she's been killed. And then a little after 10:30, one of Twisha's relatives, her sister-in-law, gets through to the landline or gets through to the phone at the residence of Giribala Singh. Giribala comes on the phone, simply says she is no more, and puts the phone down. These are the chilling new details that we are getting from the CBI FIR. Even as Giribala Singh's former lawyer tells us that he advised her not to go to the media, she misled him on the 46 phone calls that she made, including to other judges. And the Supreme Court, quite intriguingly, urges us in the media to not talk anymore to either victims, witnesses, or the accused. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, the new details that have emerged from the CBI FIR that is now all set to take over this investigation. This had been one of the main demands of Twisha's family, that the CBI must probe the case. And the Solicitor General, Tushar Mehta, who represented the family of the deceased at one point, the victim in this case, Twisha, told the Supreme Court that Giribala Singh had simply refused to cooperate with the investigation. From the CBI FIR, we learned that the case is now being investigated under the dowry death clause of the law. And it has been investigated under a particular clause where the minimum punishment is 7 years and the maximum punishment is life imprisonment. What many are now asking is why Giribala Singh's anticipatory bail has not been cancelled. In the slew of very misogynistic statements that have been made by Giribala Singh, who is a district judge, there has been revulsion across the country. But now that the case is with the CBI, with the details that we know, with the knowledge that we have, with the family asserting murder, but the case still being probed as a suicide, will we ever get to the bottom of this? Will justice be served? How hopeful are we? Let me introduce our panel today. I want to welcome to the program Rashi Wadhwa. Rashi is a close friend of Twisha, and we thank you for joining us in this time of mourning and grief. I also want to welcome to the program Shivangi Deshwal. Shivangi, in her research, tries to address that intractable question. Why do women stay in abusive, violent marriages? The CBI FIR today reveals that Twisha was under physical and emotional abuse since January. And a lot of people are saying, why didn't she just walk out? Is it that simple, given the societal premium that is placed on marriage and the stigmatization that continues to be placed on divorce? So we'll talk to Shivangi about that. I also want to welcome Chitranshul. Chitranshul Sinha is a well-known lawyer and commentator. Good to see you, Chitranshul. And also joining us is veteran IPS officer who has been an additional Director General of Police, Gurinder Dhillon, especially at a time when the Madhya Pradesh Police's conduct has come under severe scrutiny. I'll start with you, Rashi. The CBI has taken over the case, and from what I read in the FIR, they are still treating this as a suicide. But we have a very specific sort of timeline available. Twisha's family has said that 9:41 was the last time that Twisha spoke to her father, and that the phone abruptly gets either put down or disconnected. And they have said that they could hear her husband Samarth yelling in the background. After which the family keeps trying to call her, keeps trying to call her, keeps trying to call her, doesn't get through. At a little after 10:30, also called Rashi, Major Harshit's wife, Rashi Abrol, manages to speak with Giribala, the mother-in-law of Twisha, who says 4 words: she is no more. And per the testimony of Twisha's family, disconnects the call. She never calls the police. The call to the police is made by the All India Medical Institute in Bhopal a little after midnight. So imagine this death has taken place. You're a judge, or you've been a judge, your son is a lawyer, but you never call the police. You don't call the police in a single one of the 46 phone calls you make the next day, including, as we broke here on our channel, a call to the owner of a beauty parlor where Twisha was last seen to try and get hold of the CCTV footage. So you're calling calling for the CCTV footage in the beauty parlor. You're calling the CCTV technician for the footage of the house, but you never called the police. Rashi, I want to ask you, after the Supreme Court yesterday, after the CBI taking over the case, it is still being investigated as a suicide. As a close friend of Twisha, as a close friend of the family, how optimistic are you of the truth coming out?
Ma'am, as a very close member of the family, we wanted this to happen. We've been fighting for a CBI investigation, for the court to be moved to, for the judgment to move to the Supreme Court, because there is so much of biasness that has happened in Bhopal, in Madhya Pradesh, that we actually wanted jurisdiction to come out and stand for Twisha. We've known her for so long. We know for a fact that she's not a person who will kill herself, who will run away from problems. She has faced so many things in her life. In fact, the biggest example is she was in such a troubled marriage and she was still trying to make it work. She has stood there, she has faced every issue. Why would she run away from such a situation? So it is not that she has taken her life on her own. And even if, like, the timeline has come out, if somebody has interrupted her call and she was on call with her parents where she was telling them what the problem was and everything, then at the end of the day, where is the footage where they're showing that Samarth went up to the terrace, where they're showing a footage, right, that some Twisha has gone up to the terrace and the third person is going up to the terrace, but those two people who are bringing Twisha's body down with the third person, when did they go up to the terrace? So where is that footage? That actually will help us understand the timeline better, because as per what the family is saying, that at 9:41 they were speaking to her, and if a call gets abruptly cut, then obviously an argument would take place in such a scenario. And then why, how did she get the time to suddenly kill herself? And also, like you said, it is a case where we are speaking to a retired judge, a lawyer. Do they not know that it was a crime scene? Why would they touch the body if they already on call declared that that Twisha is no more? They had no right to touch the body in the first place. Hence, considering all of this, we wanted to go to CBI and the Supreme Court, and we are actually now hoping that she will get justice out of this whole case. This is not a suicide case.
So you think it's not a suicide? That is also what her brother, her father has been saying. And the one thing that really made me, again, I'm a journalist, I am not a detective, I am not a police officer, I am not a judge, I'm not a lawyer. But I am applying my common sense here. The one thing that really made me suspicious, and if we can pull that out to play, is what happened in the CCTV footage that came from a beauty parlor that Twisha is last seen at. So just hours before her death, Twisha Sharma is seen getting a massage, like it is another normal day in her life. And then it transpires, and the owner of the beauty parlor tells us that she called for that footage. And I'm going to play that clip for you in a moment, but I just want to get reactions from everybody else. Mr. Dhillon, there is a lot of focus on the conduct of the police, the Madhya Pradesh police, the fact that the FIR took so long to book, the fact that the alleged nylon rope used by Twisha to take her own life was not provided at the time of the first autopsy, which is why a second autopsy was needed. How do you see it?
Barkha, once again, good evening. Good evening to fellow panelists and the viewers. So, see, this is the question which, Barkha, you are asking, which will keep haunting many stakeholders. Now, the conduct of Giribala before the incident and after the incident. Secondly, the conduct of the local police, Bhopal police, both the things, both the stakeholders clearly appears were hand in glove with each other. And why I am saying so? Because when a death has taken place of a girl married less than 7 years, and it appears to be case of unnatural death, police has to act immediately. But in this case, why I'll say so, imagine a person of the family, daughter-in-law is died. They are alleging because of suicide, but of course, investigation will prove whether it is murder, dowry death, or suicide. And it is assuring that ultimately CBI has taken over the investigation, and I'm very happy about that. But whatever has happened, the statements of this lady, the running absconding of Samrat, and the police role. She was calling more than 40 people, but she did not call 112. Why I am saying so? She is not an ordinary person. She herself was a district judge, a trial lawyer, and still a serving judge. She knew very well how to conduct after the incident. So everything which has come, it become a rarest of rare case that she did not call 112. The Katara Hill police station was just few meters away. She did not report to the police. The body is taken to the mortuary for postmortem or for medical examination. But AIMS is calling police. And after AIMS had called the police did not act. Imagine the deaths take place on 12th and FIR is being registered on 15th. Why? Because this lady Giribala, she was managing how to destroy evidence, how to make her son abscond. So whatever she did clearly indicates that there was something pre-planned which needs to be investigated. Now, imagine she is coming to the media and she applies for bail on 14th of the month, while the FIR is being registered on 15th. So she is asking for an anticipatory bail 1 day before the registration of an FIR, and incidentally, fortunately or unfortunately, she gets it. All this clearly shows that the role of Giribala, Samrat, and local police is shrouded, and I hope that CBI will be able to look into every detail regarding sequence of events, destruction of evidence. See, scene of crime is the most important place because the scientific evidence speaks there. It is not the emotional statements which witnesses make later. Most important part is the scientific evidence being collected from the scene of crime. Now,
So,
from 12th of the month, 3 days, police doesn't come to the scene of crime, and the person who is handling the scene of crime is Giribala or is assisted by some other people. And the kind of conduct of that lady is clearly it was intimidating. It was clearly showing she's influencing an investigation. And not only that, she was doing criminal defamation, character assassination. I am surprised that, and one way I'm also satisfied, if she had not come to the media by herself, maybe media had not played a very proactive role. But
I think
because
you're
of
right.
her own doing,
I think you're right. I must intervene there because I was talking to a former Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, Justice Banerjee, and he first started to say to me that, a media trial is never healthy. And I said, normally I'd agree with you, sir, but in this case, without the media, this case would have passed off as, another dowry death, another statistic. And if Giri Bala Singh had not held that absolutely atrocious press conference of her own volition, I doubt very much that people like myself would have gone seeking her out for an interview. But let's come to the legal question. I want to come to, and I think, Mr. Dhillon, you made some very important points. The fact that she got bail before the FIR was booked is really important. The fact that the scene of crime, she had enough time to manipulate it, is important. The fact that the Madhya Pradesh government has now said to the High Court that they believe she tampered evidence, then why has the anticipatory bail not been cancelled? So many legal questions. I'll add one more before I come to Chitranshul. She and her son used a lawyer. The lawyer then left the case. He says that Giri Bala Singh, he told my colleague Zafar Iqbal, that Giri Bala Singh was not honest with him about these 46 phone calls. He says that he advised her not to go to the press, Chitranshul, but she did not listen. I'll just play a small clip from that interview and come to you. Take a look.
ये देखिए 46 कॉल्स की बात कल परसों इरप्ट हुई। ये बात जब तक मैं उनका लॉयर था, आई वाज देयर लॉयर टिल फ्राइडे, तब तक ये बात नहीं आई।
यानी आपसे भी कई बातें उन्होंने छुपाई।
हाँ, हमको नहीं बताया कि इन्होंने कहाँ कहाँ फोन किया। इन्होंने हमको कभी नहीं बताया कि इन्होंने कहाँ कहाँ फोन किया, किसको बात की, हमने कभी नहीं। बल्कि मैं बताऊं कि वो जो उनका वो है बिटिया का फादर, उन्होंने बताया कि साहब इनसे बात की, पता नहीं किसके किसके नाम लिए उन्होंने, कोई लोकायुक्त साहब हैं कौन कौन। तो मैंने इनसे पूछा था कि आपने बात की इन लोगों से, तो शी स्पेसिफिकली सेड कि नहीं हमारी कोई बात नहीं। ये उन्होंने मुझसे बोला था कि हमारी कोई बात।
यानी पूरी ट्रांसपेरेंसी नहीं थी आपके साथ भी उनकी, तो ये भी एक वजह बनी कि आपको लगा कि पूरी ट्रांसपेरेंसी नहीं है तो केस आगे कैसे प्लीड होगा।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही बात।
तो
इफ द क्लाइंट देखिए, अगर क्लाइंट अपने लॉयर को पूरी बात ना बताए तो लॉयर कैसे प्रेजेंट करेगा केस?
So he's saying that, she was not transparent with me. I don't know if, whether the lawyer should be revealing all these things. That's something that crossed my mind as I was listening to him. But the fact is that Giri Bala Singh Chitranshul emerges as this extremely powerful person whom the police was maybe intimidated in going to the house of immediately. The FIR was delayed. This rope not being provided, the alleged rope used for an alleged suicide, which the family doesn't accept. And one more question to you. The Supreme Court urging the media to be restrained, saying a narrative is being set that there's a bias because she was a judge. It's not clear to anybody how to read the Supreme Court's observations yesterday, and I'm wondering how you look at them.
See, coming to the first point, Barkha, while I was also listening to it, I believe the lawyer has done more harm than good to the case, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's actually against ethics to reveal privileged communication, whatever the circumstances may be. I'm not talking about this particular case. This is a very unfortunate case, but whatever the circumstances may be, he should not be revealing information, privileged information in public, especially to the media, and that too in detail. He's actually doing more harm than good here. Because
I agree with you.
Is to say that you cannot consider this. This is a privileged communication.
And she will say, and she will argue that you can't use this against me because this was meant to be confidential. Yeah.
Absolutely. This was supposed to be confidential. It cannot be used in evidence against him. This is most likely not going to be used in evidence. So this actually doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
That is the first. Second point, what like Mr. Dhillon pointed out, the golden period after the incident itself, when they did not report the case, the hospital by itself was mandated to report it because it is a medical legal case. So it was mandated to report it and hospital reported. And like Mr. Dhillon pointed out, if there's been the delay of 3 days in actually registering the FIR, I don't even know if they even carried out any preliminary investigation before registering the FIR. So if that preliminary investigation has not been carried out, looking at the conduct of the accused here, especially Ms. Giri Bala Singh, she was more or less, this is what my personal feeling is. I don't want to actually get into the merits of the case, but what my personal belief is that when Samarth was absconding and his statement is that he was not in touch, his phone was switched off, it actually seemed like that she was coaching him through the media. What you pointed out was that Why did she come to the media? She invited us in. She opened the door. We did not knock on their door, right? I believe this was more a way to communicate to the other accused. I may be wrong, but this is what was the first impression that I got, that this is the story. Please stick to that story. However it might turn out, I believe this was what the case, and this is something which actually should have gone against her, and she should not have been granted anticipatory bail, especially before the FIR was being registered. And but I must commend the Madhya Pradesh High Court, because the High Court acted very quickly in directing the second autopsy and asking for everything else. And High Court was very sensitive to the matter; it did not delay it at all. The central government, the state government, at least in court, have been very sensitive to the matter. Now, the other point that you're making is, especially with regard to dowry deaths, now that was a very important point that you made out, that why this case has attained some sort of prominence today is because they invited the media in. But like the latest, according to the latest NCBI RB reports, which are actually more than 3 years old now, there are about 6,156 reported dowry death cases in India, which I feel is an underreporting. I don't believe that there are only just 6156 cases in all of the country. Ms. Deshwal might know better than me on this. But at the end of the day, and that too with about a 30-35% conviction rate, it does not inspire too much confidence. Many cases go unreported or are misclassified. Many cases just are logged as suicide cases. And especially under these circumstances, immediately calling it a suicide was one of the biggest suspicious circumstances, because if someone says that there was a call at 9:41 and then they say that she passed away around 10:20, who are they to decide who passed away, who did not pass away? Their role was to call the ambulance immediately, call the cops immediately. The cops had to determine. We don't know if she had a pulse, if she did not have. So that was a big issue. That's a big issue with this entire case. The delay in calling calling an ambulance, calling the police may actually have caused a death. We don't know. And all this has to be determined. I don't know the exact details of the second autopsy. I don't know whether it's public or not, but all this will come out. And it's a major indictment on the state police that the CBI has now been directed to take over. And it's a major indictment on state police that they fail to do their duty, like Mr. Dillon pointed out.
Yeah, all excellent points, and I kind of agree with you. I hadn't heard that clip properly when I was listening to the lawyer. I was like, why is he saying this in public? But the other points that both you and Mr. Dillon have made, and Rashi has made about the attitude of the police, the crime scene not being sealed, Samarth Singh deciding what was the time of the alleged suicide, not one call to the police. It is all highly suspicious. Before I come to Shivangi, and there's a lot of different elements to look at. You see, in the CBI FIR today, Shivangi, the father of Twisha clearly says that his daughter was being physically and emotionally abused since January, right? Let's also remind people that this was a wedding. She'd been married for just a little over 5 months. The demands, it is revealed also in the FIR, started at the time of the wedding, during the Vidai, when he says Giribala Singh asked for 2 lakh rupees. The father also told me that at the time of the ceremony, this is how dowry starts, that there's a cultural camouflage over it. कि ये arrangements ठीक नहीं है, ये बंदोबस्त ठीक नहीं है, this is not fancy enough, this is not posh enough. That is also a kind of dowry. We may call it something else today. Now, one of the questions that everybody is asking, and I apologize to Rashi in advance, because this is a question people are asking, why didn't the family bring her home sooner if she was being abused since January, right? And I understand with the societal pressure, this is not easy. But I did ask Twisha's brother this question at the end of a very long interview, and he's been such a prominent, support to her, both while she was alive and now that she's passed. And it was heartbreaking to hear what he said. So I'm just going to play that clip out because I think it sets the context for the question I want to ask you. Take a look. Do you just feel today, I wish I just brought her home?
Ma'am, I think that question will always remain with me throughout my life. And I have no right answer to this.
And I know it's not easy.
I do not consider that I made the right decision that day. I feel my efforts were lacking even that day. I should have just convinced her. She's a very emotional being, ma'am. She will always stand by. She's very, will hold her decisions.
Small, it's a pithy yet heartbreaking statement, Shivangi, that I feel my efforts were lacking. I wish I'd been able to convince her. It's not that it's easy for women. Women are also socialized to stay in marriage. Women are also socialized to make adjustments. In this case, her family has also explained to me that because it was a love marriage, she met him through a dating app, she felt more responsible for her choices. But if we do not learn the lesson that is needed to be learned, there will be more and more Twishas and more Giribalas. And that lesson is that marriage and romance is not or cannot be at the center of a woman's identity. And I know you've looked at this in great detail. That intractable question, we get it every day in our audience stream. Why did she not leave? Why did she not leave? Right? Women who have been gaslit to stay in abusive marriages with the cultural conditioning all around us, it isn't that easy. It's very easy to be judgmental, but I'm not being judgmental. I genuinely want you to share with us your findings on this.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, Barkha. We have to move the onus from the natal family to what the victim was going through. You have to understand also the agency of the woman. In my experience, where I've been closely following the case, she has gone back to the natal family. They have told her and reiterated that you can come back whenever you want. On messages, on call, she has gone back multiple times. So this means that it wasn't that they completely abandoned her or anything. We have to come back to the psychology of the woman, right? Help seeking, which is the decision to seek help when you're facing violence, is not linear. All right, it changes when you have different situations and external circumstances. And it also depends on your positive and negative perception of informal or formal help. Informal help is what she was doing in this case, which is where you are trying to contact your friends, family, etc. Formal help would be police, legal, or service providers, correct? In theory of violence against women, the most common one is called the learned helplessness theory, wherein you say that when the woman is going through extreme severity of violence, there is psychological paralysis that happens within her. While it is often criticized that you're pathologizing the woman in this situation, but she feels that she is passive and she cannot do anything against when violence happens. That is the first theory. The second theory, which has happened in Twisha's case, is the cycle of violence. Just to explain it, I'll take a little time to explain that. There are three stages to it. One is the honeymoon phase, wherein they fall in love and they're very much together. Second is called the tension building phase, which has happened here, which is nitpicking, jealousy, possessiveness, coercive control, isolation, verbal abuse, maybe or maybe not slapping, etc. happening. At this point, the woman tries to change herself. So she might be working hard. If she's called her, let's assume something happened at the honeymoon where they're saying that she was pushed. She has spoken to her brother, as per the brother's account, that have I made a mistake? What should I do? So what the woman at that moment is doing, trying to change herself. So maybe she's going for counseling, maybe she's trying to change herself, maybe trying to go to the gym and release some endorphins, feel better about the situation. That is the tension building phase. The last phase is called the acute phase, and the acute explosion phase is when any form of big violence happens, such as slapping, kicking, pushing her, etc. Now, at that moment is when the woman seeks help. That means at that moment is when Twisha has contacted her family, her friends to say, I am facing violence or he's doing this. What do I do? Do I come back? So she's come back and gone back. This cycle again goes back to the honeymoon phase, wherein the man apologizes. Somewhat maybe must have apologized, said, I'll go for counseling. Let's try to have a baby. Things will improve between us. Let me try and get intervention from my mom's side. This cycle, by research, repeats 7 times before a woman decides to leave. So there has to be a threat to her life and her children in certain cases for her to decide. She was stuck in the cycle of violence. It's not happened that many times. And this is the minimum 7 times that it happens. And that's when the woman actually decides to leave a violent marriage. And just to additionally get this point, when I was looking at another framework, I really need to bring it out here, because you said the FIS clearly stated that there was someone who came in and said something to it. If you look at the intimate partner homicide timeline, it has 8 stages. It is made by Dr. Smith, and she talks about in cases of staged suicide or murders, you have to follow the stages. In this stage, at stage 4 is the trigger. Did Twisha somehow mentioned that you need to have a separation in the intimate partner relationship? So did she somehow mention listen, I'm going to go back to my house. I don't want to be here. And that is when there was a rage reaction. And that is when there is an escalation in the stage 5. Stage 6 and stage 7 is when there is state suicide or homicide. So this framework has to be brought in the conversation of law, of the police, to understand that researches with objective truth and science have been done on violence against women. Sorry, please go ahead.
No. I think that was an excellent elucidation in a very short period of time. And this idea that there could have been a rage reaction becomes even more important when you look at the images on your screen. Whatever Twisha was going through, and I can say this, I think we've all been in relationships that haven't been happy for us. We've all been in relationships where many of us have even experienced abuse. It doesn't mean your whole life collapses. It means a part of your life collapses. There could still be that moment, as happened with Twisha, that she went to get a head massage. And this CCTV footage from the parlor, it really captures that thing that she's alone, she's by herself, she's in her own space. Maybe she feels a degree of autonomy because there's no anxiety triggers around her. And this is hours before she's alleged to have taken her own life. Now, what is really critical, before I come back to everybody else, is what the beauty parlor owner then says. One, she told my colleague that Twisha seemed absolutely like she seemed every day, no different. The second is what Giribala Singh does the morning after her daughter-in-law is found dead. I know some of you have seen this, but I think it's worth playing again. Please take a look.
विनोद जी, ये बताइए कि उस दिन जो 12 तारीख को जब ये
No, not this. Can we come out?
कॉल आई?
Could we come out of
तो
this?
उसके बाद जो गिरिबाला है, उनका भी आपको कॉल आया था रात को या अगले दिन?
नहीं, उनका कॉल मेरे पास दूसरे दिन आया था, 13 तारीख को आया था।
डेथ के बाद क्या बोले थे वो?
जी, वो मुझसे पूछ रहे थे कि ट्विशा आई थी क्या, तो मैंने उनको बताया कि मैंने उनको बताया कि वो मुझे याद नहीं था, मुझे पता नहीं था क्योंकि मैं पार्लर में थी नहीं। फिर मैंने अपने स्टाफ से पूछा, मुझे पता चला कि वो आई थी। मैंने बताया गिरीवाला मैम को कि वो आई थी, और फिर उनने बोला कि आपके पास कुछ एविडेंस होगा ना कि वो आई थी या नहीं आई थी, आपके पास ट्रांजैक्शन होगा या कुछ भी होगा। तो मैंने बोला कि ऐसा तो कुछ है, ट्रांजैक्शन तो उनने किया ही नहीं था क्योंकि ऑलरेडी उनका अमाउंट मेरे पास जमा था, वो सिर्फ सर्विसेज लेने आई थी। तो फिर उनने क्या पूछा मुझसे, फिर उनने पूछा कुछ तो होगा आपके पास, तो उनने बोला कि सीसीटीवी नहीं लगे हैं क्या आपके पार्लर में? तो मैंने बोला लगे, हाँ सीसीटीवी तो लगे हैं। सीसीटीवी फुटेज का पूछा उनने, मैंने बोला वो है। फिर मेरा फोन कॉल डिस्कनेक्ट होने के बाद कुछ लोग आए थे, एडवोकेट आए थे, और उनने सीसीटीवी फुटेज दिया और उसका उनने जो भी डाटा उनको चाहिए था वो लिया, तो फिर वो चले गए।
तो एक बार उनकी बात हुई आपसे या 2 बार हुई?
एक बार उनका कॉल आया था, तब मैं घर पे थी। फिर उसके बाद उनका दूसरा मिस कॉल आया था, तब मैं फोन पिक नहीं कर पाई, तब मैं शायद बिजी रही होंगी। फिर मैं जब पार्लर यहाँ से सैलून के लिए निकली तो मैंने देखा कि उनका मिस कॉल था, तो मैंने उनको कॉल लगाया। मैंने बोला मैम क्या हो गया, आपने कॉल किया था? फिर उनने मुझे बोला कि हाँ मतलब मुझे पूछना है कि, फिर दोबारा उनने वही चीज बोली। तो मैंने बोला कि ठीक है, मैं एक काम करती हूँ, मैं जा रही हूँ सैलून, वहां पे मैं आपको सीसीटीवी में देख के आपको बताती हूँ कि मैम कब आए थे और कब गए थे।
Now, I found this the spookiest testimony that actually has come on record. And unlike the lawyer's testimony, Chitranshul, to be very legitimate testimony, because she is confirming that Giribala Singh, the morning after her daughter-in-law is found dead, is calling the parlor to procure CCTV footage to actually surveil her daughter-in-law. Was there a bill? How did she pay? How did she seem? Okay, was there footage? Give me that footage. And then the parlor owner goes on to say in the fuller clip that a group of lawyers arrives at the parlor and takes a copy of the footage. It is astonishing, right? And that is why the family believes, and Mr. Dhillon believes, and so many people believe that she's hiding something, that this is not necessarily suicide. Again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I'm just putting whatever we have in the public domain. Do you find this peculiar? I mean, you must have seen so many cases, Chitranshul, before I come to Mr. Dhillon.
See, it's very suspicious. This, if not anything else, it's at least a very clear effort to tamper with evidence. Who knows that if they would have given a copy or the original copy, it may have disappeared. And that comes back to the point of the police not being vigilant after the medico-legal case was reported by the hospital. They should have been the ones who should have started tracking the whereabouts of the victim, and they should have been ones who should have reached out to the parlor for evidence, to at least secure evidence. So this is another reason why anticipatory bail should not have been granted to Giribala.
Yeah. So I must ask Mr. Dhillon, why do you think her anticipatory bail has not been cancelled? Again, I have a question. Chitranshul, maybe you want to take that, or Mr. Dhillon. This is under the BNS Section 80, Clause 2, per the CBI FIR, which is then looking at death in unnatural circumstances, right? It is a non-bailable offence as far as I know my law. Therefore, does that non-bailability set into force only after conviction or even before? Chitranshul, if you want to just take that, and then I'll come to Mr. Dhillon.
No, non-bailable does not mean that bail cannot be granted. Non-bailable simply means that the police cannot let you go on your own personal bond. The bail should have will have to be given by a court of law. That is what non-bailable means. So that, as such, itself does not bar the courts from giving bail to the accused.
Okay, but as Mr. Dhillon, you pointed out, the extraordinary thing here is that her anticipatory bail was before the FIR was registered, and we saw really heartbreaking scenes. I would like to, with respect, remind the Supreme Court that asked the media to show restraint, that Twisha's family was standing with folded hands outside the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh's gates, outside the police station, begging for an FIR to be registered. And it's easy to forget all of that today. With respect, full respect to the Supreme Court, I'd have to disagree with some of those observations yesterday. That said, Mr. Dhillon, now what? If there has been evidence tampering, if there has been possible manipulation of evidence, and I'm not being sensationalist here, the Madhya Pradesh government has said this in front of the High Court. We know, you have pointed out that the scene of the crime was not cordoned off. It was not sealed. She never called the police. She never called the police. Can we hope for the truth? Can we hope for the truth to emerge? How do we know that she is not going to plant evidence? How do you know that, she made this crazy charge of her daughter-in-law using drugs, even though on private a tape shows her admitting her son was the actual drugs user? Somebody said yesterday on this program, what's to stop her from putting some marijuana in one of Twisha's closets? Like, how do we know? These things happen all the time. The first thing that is said to women when we point out that we're not happy is to question our mental health. In polite company, it's called hysterical. When it comes to this, they'll say she was not mentally stable.
See, Barkha, very important questions which you have asked and detailed. One point is very clear that yes, 80 BNS means 304B IPC for dowry death. But at the same time, I have done investigations, and I remember one case in which police got this complaint. FIR was registered under 304, and then somebody called me that, sir, it is not a suicide, it is a murder. I went to the spot as supervisory officer, took SHO along, took investigating officer and all, and did my own investigation at the scene of crime. And I found that the place where they showed that girl has hanged herself, that there it was not possible for that height of a girl to be hanged. Who can be hanged? I converted the case based on material evidence, and then later his interrogation, that after killing the girl, he jumped over to his roof and jumped into the neighboring house. And the case was converted into murder, and he got convicted in that case. But I tell you again, in this case, coming back to this case, see, Barkha, matrimonial home cannot become a zone beyond accountability in such cases. And another point, which message I want to repeat myself, the trial of a civilized society is not how to celebrate weddings, but how safely daughters live after that. But in this case,
well said, sir.
In this case, you will find, I have no doubts, but after having investigated and dealt with matrimonial cases, that Giribala Singh is the main culprit. I am just saying main accused. Now, at the same time, we all are talking what is already in public domain. Now, for example, it is clear that after the death, the next day, she is looking for video footage of the parlor, that salon. It means She knew what is happening, where she is going, what is happening with her, and she was preparing for defense evidence. That is why I doubt and I feel this video footage she may have presented to the court that she was very happy. She was doing everything but at her own. There is no involvement of mine. So please, I feel that a false case will be registered against her. So grant her the anticipatory bail. In 99% of the cases, court will never entertain an application of anticipatory bail in such cases where FIR is not in record, because they will seek for the report of the police. But incidentally, in this case, it was not done. Now, court has to tell why it was not done. Now, second point, I am not contesting what court did because of the protocol reasons. Now, second point is that after taking anticipatory bail, the court grants anticipatory bails by some default conditions and specifically speaking order telling these things should not be done. But you will find that after taking anticipatory bail, if it was her brother or her some other family member talking about all this, it would have not been that wrong. But here, after she got the anticipatory bail,
it is her herself.
Yeah, and she is herself violating all the default conditions of a bail. She was influencing witnesses. She was, as fellow panelist lawyers have said, she was conveying her message to her husband, to her son through television. And by giving statements, she was conveying directly to the investigating agencies and including intimidation of the witnesses. So it is not possible that her bail will not be cancelled. My experience says her anticipatory bail has to be cancelled because I don't know if
but
CBI
Mr.
has done
she's done
one more point. One more point, Barkha. Sorry, I don't know if CBI has inspected the scene of crime, but if they have done inspection of the scene of crime, I am sure they will add another section of destruction of evidence. All these things come together when they are put before the High Court. I have full faith in Honorable High Court that this bail will be cancelled because CBI will not be able to arrive at a logical conclusion without doing the custodial interrogation of Kiribala and her son, and including other witnesses.
I agree with you fully. And I want to say that I got into so many arguments. I would never have interviewed her had she not done that press conference. And when I did, I was so angry with her because she alleged a mental health issue with Twisha. She then outed, if it's true, what are meant to be confidential appraisals between a doctor and a patient. She should have had no business accessing them. She lied. I asked her whether Twisha was taunted for the baby not being hers. The CBI FIR clearly documents that was one of the taunts thrown in Twisha's face. I just want to, sir, Mr. In 1 minute, just because limited time, I want to get in Rashi and then give Shivangi the last word. And I'll try and come back to you also, sir. Rashi, you were her friend. Sometimes friends know friends better than even families do. When it is suggested to you that she took her own life, what would you want people who did not know her to know about her?
Ma'am, Twisha has been the most supportive person all of us have had. She was the light of the room. She would enter, she would speak to everybody, entertain everybody. She was a dreamer. I have seen her achieve her dreams, and she has. I mean, I'm honestly telling you, for the longest time, she wanted to get married. She wanted to have a family, kids. She always kept telling us the day she decided to get married to Samar, she called me and she said, हमने तो डिसाइड कर लिया है, हम तो बच्चे बच्चे करके बिल्कुल सेटल हो जाएंगे, हम एक दूसरे को पूरा टाइम देंगे. I am going to enjoy my marriage. I am going to enjoy the time that I'm going to get with Samarth. She didn't get that time only. So it is not that she would have done something to herself. She tried to make her marriage work because as a girl, I know that marriage is a very big thing for us. So For Twisha, she has never been wrong. She has always been there for people, the strongest person. And I want people to know that this is not her weakness, that she was such a nice person. This was used against her, and she did not take her life because
Can,
she
can,
got weak at a point. Yes, sorry.
can I ask you, so you don't believe it was suicide, knowing her?
No, ma'am. No,
Can I
ma'am.
ask you, before I give Shivangi the closing word, did you ever say to her, because she must have confided in you that it was turned out to be an unhappy marriage, she decided to opt for an abortion, which, by the way, horrifically, Justice Singh, Giribala Singh, called an act of cruelty, which is totally in violation of the law. The law in India allows a woman to have an abortion up to 24 weeks. So I just, want to put that on record. But did she ever say to you why she was staying on?
No, ma'am. Actually, the last time I met her was at Harshit's wedding, and I actually did try to speak to her as to how is the marriage going. How is it that you're feeling now that you're married? You always wanted to be married. So she just didn't really say much. And to be very honest, Samarth was always around her. Like, we didn't get the chance to speak to her to understand what she was going through, and also trying to understand that there were so many things happening that maybe we thought somebody has just gotten married.
Yeah.
They need that space. The person has just gotten into the family, so maybe this person is trying to maybe be around his wife so that he can meet more people. So it did not look that bad at that point in time, but she wasn't herself. She didn't even dress up well for her brother's marriage. Very simple clothes. But maybe we thought, a lot of times people try to change, like she said, that you try to change for your partner, you change a lot. So maybe it was that, maybe it was our mistake that we didn't focus so much on it. But yes, the idea was that she did not mention this. We tried, but we did
Okay.
not get any answer.
I hindsight is 2020. I think nobody should be beating themselves up at this time. I'm sure the family is already haunted by the fact that when she came home, they didn't just keep her home. Shivangi, just a last comment to you that women who light up rooms are sometimes the ones that people seek to snuff out. People seek to snuff out that light. Vibrancy in a woman, strength in a woman, independence in a woman isn't always celebrated, right? More than one romance has collapsed because that light is what is the problem. So just a last comment to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, Barkha, I just want to put out that violence is not just physical, right? In this situation, there is coercive control, which is that, like she said, that Samarth was always around her. So isolating the victim in the first place is what usually happens in cases of violence. And one needs to look at this murder/suicide, whatever the authorities eventually come up with the judgment, is that there was abuse present, right? And we have to reiterate that there was abuse present. There were instances of abuse, verbal abuse, psychological violence, physical violence, and coercive control. When we look at this lens, it'll be important to understand what actually happened in this case.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you. I'm sorry, no time is enough time to actually get really to the heart of the matter, but we'll keep at it. I really appreciate everybody's time and perspectives, to Rashi, to Shivangi, to Chitranshul, and to Mr. Dhillon. Thank you. And to everybody in the audience, we'll keep tracking this. Thank you for watching. See you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.